She dropped the mysterious customer's phone during her late-night shift. The screen cracked open, releasing ancient magic that identified her 6-year-old son as the lost heir to a vampire throne. Now the exiled vampire king stood between her and the hunters crashing through the diner windows, offering one impossible choice: run forever, or trust the stranger who claimed to be her son's father. The coffee pot slipped. Not much. Just enough for Tessa's heart to lurch as scalding liquid splashed dangerously close to the customer's hand. She caught it, barely, her waitress reflexes kicking in after 6 years of slinging hash at Murphy's Highway Diner. "Sorry," she muttered, refilling his cup with shaking hands. Third double shift this week. Her feet screamed. Her back ached. And Liam's school had called twice about pickup. The customer didn't look up. He never did. He'd been coming in every Friday for 3 months now, always at 11 p.m., always ordering black coffee and sitting in booth 7. Always staring at that weird obsidian black phone like it held the secrets of the universe. Tessa had learned not to ask questions. In a highway diner between nowhere and somewhere else, you saw all types. Truckers, runaways, people running from things they'd never name. But this guy? He was different. Tall, with dark hair that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Pale skin that looked like he'd never seen the sun. And those eyes, silver gray, the color of storm clouds, that occasionally flicked up to watch her with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "Mommy." Tessa's head snapped toward the door. Liam burst through, his Spider-Man backpack bouncing as he ran straight for her. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chun, gave an apologetic wave from the entrance. "Sorry, Tessa. He insisted on seeing you." "It's fine," Tessa called back, though her manager would disagree. She crouched down, catching Liam in a hug. "Baby, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in bed." "I had a bad dream." Liam's small hands clutched her uniform. "About the man with the dark eyes." Ice shot through Tessa's veins. "What man?" But Liam wasn't looking at her anymore. His gaze had fixed on booth 7. On the customer with the obsidian phone. The customer was staring back. "That man," Liam whispered. Everything happened at once. Tessa stood, instinctively moving between her son and the stranger. Her hip caught the edge of the booth. The tray she'd been balancing, the one with 4 plates of meatloaf and mashed potatoes, tilted. And the obsidian phone, which the customer had been holding, flew from his hand. It hit the checkered linoleum floor with a crack that echoed like thunder. The diner went silent. All 12 customers turned to look. Tessa dropped to her knees, mortified. "Oh God, I'm so sorry, I'll pay for it." Her words died. The phone screen had shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. But through those cracks, something was glowing. Not the blue light of a normal phone. This was different, crimson and gold, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then it erupted. Light exploded from the phone in a wave of ancient symbols that spiraled upward, coalescing into an image suspended in midair, a crest of crossed swords behind a crown dripping with what looked horribly like blood. The customer moved faster than humanly possible. One moment he was sitting. The next, he was standing over the phone, his hand outstretched as if to contain the light. But he was too late. The symbols had already spread, crawling across the diner floor like living things, and when they reached Liam, the boy screamed. Not in pain, in recognition. The crimson light wrapped around Liam like ribbons, and the crest in the air began to spin, faster and faster, until it slammed into his small chest and vanished. Liam collapsed. No. Tessa lunged for him, but the customer was faster. He caught Liam before he hit the ground, his silver eyes wide with something Tessa had never seen there before. Fear. You, he breathed, staring at Liam's unconscious face. It's you. Get away from my son. Tessa shoved him hard, yanking Liam into her arms. Around them, the diner had erupted into chaos. Customers were shouting, pulling out phones, backing toward the exits. The customer didn't fight her. He simply stood there, looking between Tessa and Liam with an expression of dawning horror. "You don't remember me," he said quietly. "I made sure you wouldn't. But him," he pointed at Liam. "He's mine. Our son." Tessa's world tilted. "You're insane." "I'm Varian," he said it like it should mean something. "And 6 years ago, in a motel 3 miles from here, I spent one night with a waitress who showed me kindness when I had nothing left. You."
No, 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 no.
But even as Tessa shook her head, memories were surfacing. Fragments. A stranger with sad eyes at the bar. A conversation that lasted hours. A night that felt like a dream, hazy and unreal, and in the morning, nothing. She'd woken up alone, unable to remember his face or name, chalking it up to too much wine and stress. And 9 months later, Liam. The crest recognizes blood. Varian continued, his voice urgent now. "Royal blood. Your son is the heir to a kingdom you don't know exists, and the seal I placed on that phone just broadcast his location to everyone who wants him dead." As if summoned by his words, the diner's front window exploded inward. 3 figures in black tactical gear crashed through, moving with the same inhuman speed as Varian. But where his eyes were gray, theirs glowed red. "There," one snarled, pointing at Liam. "The heir." Varian moved like liquid shadow, positioning himself between the attackers and Tessa. When he opened his mouth, his teeth had changed, elongated into something sharp and terrifying. "Run," he commanded, and his voice carried a power that made Tessa's legs move before her brain caught up. She ran, clutching Liam to her chest, crashing through the kitchen door as the sounds of inhuman combat erupted behind her. Murphy was on the phone with 911, his face pale. "Tessa, what the hell?" "Back door," she gasped. "Now." She didn't wait to see if he listened. She burst into the parking lot, her car keys jingling in her apron pocket. But she never made it to her car. Varian appeared in front of her, blood on his shirt, not his own, and desperation in his eyes. "They'll keep coming," he said. "Hunters. Rebels. Everyone who wants the throne. You can run, but they'll find you." Or he held out his hand. "You can trust me. Let me protect what's mine." Tessa looked at this stranger, this impossible creature claiming to be her son's father. Then she looked at Liam, still unconscious in her arms, and saw something she'd never noticed before. In the parking lot lights, his shadow didn't quite match his body. It moved a fraction of a second too late, like it belonged to something else. Behind them, sirens wailed. More windows shattered. And in the distance, Tessa heard howls that didn't sound like any animal she knew. She took Varian's hand. "If you're lying," she whispered, "I'll kill you myself." His smile was sad and ancient. "If I'm lying, you won't have to. They will." And then they were running into the night, leaving behind the only life Tessa had ever known, chasing answers to questions she'd never thought to ask. The stolen SUV smelled like cigarettes and regret. Tessa had watched Varian hot-wired outside a truck stop in under 10 seconds, his movements precise and unnervingly calm. Now, they were somewhere in New Mexico, 3 states away from the ruins of her life, and Liam still hadn't woken up. Why isn't he awake? Tessa pressed her hand against Liam's forehead for the 100th time. He was breathing, his heartbeat steady, but his eyes remained closed. "You said he was fine." "He is." Varian's eyes never left the dark highway. "The awakening is traumatic. His body is adjusting to what he is. He's a 6-year-old boy. He's also my heir." Varian's jaw tightened. The moment that crest recognized him, everything dormant in his blood activated. Human and vampire, fighting for dominance. "He needs time." Tessa wanted to scream. Instead, she cradled Liam closer, trying to reconcile the impossible. Vampires. Magic. A secret kingdom. It sounded like the plot of a bad movie, except the bodies back at the diner had been real. The blood had been real. "Tell me about that night," she said quietly. "The truth." Varian was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Then, I was dying," She blinked. What? My brother, Ray's, poisoned me at a council meeting. A slow-acting toxin designed to weaken me before he challenged me for the throne. I fled to the human world to buy time, to find a cure. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. That night, I was in that motel room planning my death. Then you knocked on the wrong door. Tessa remembered now, fragments sharpening into focus. She'd been looking for room 12, not 21. Had been bringing extra towels to a guest. The man who answered had looked so lost, so broken, that she'd stayed.
Talked.
And then, you glamored me. Anger flared hot in her chest. Made me forget. I thought I was protecting you, Varion's voice cracked, just slightly. Humans who know about our world become targets. I never intended to survive that week, let alone father a child. When I woke the next morning, the poison had mysteriously burned out of my system. I didn't understand why until tonight. What do you mean? You saved my life, Tessa. You and what we created. He finally looked at her, and she saw centuries of pain in those silver eyes. A air conceived between human and vampire at the moment of death. It's ancient magic. Forbidden magic. The kind that broke curses and toppled kingdoms. Liam's existence burned the poison from my blood. But it also left a mark. A connection. The tracking spell. Varion nodded grimly. Ray's felt it. He's known about Liam since the moment he was born, waiting for him to awaken. Tonight, I handed him the perfect excuse to claim Liam is a threat that must be eliminated. The weight of it crushed down on Tessa. 6 years. Ray's had been watching her baby for 6 years, waiting. Mommy? Tessa's head snapped down. Liam's eyes were open, still brown, thank God, but something in them had changed. They were sharper, more aware. Baby, how do you feel? Different. Liam sat up slowly, looking at his hands like they belonged to someone else. I can hear everything. Your heart. The tires on the road. Something following us, far behind. Varion's head jerked up. What? 3 cars. Maybe 4-inch. Liam tilted his head, listening to something neither adult could hear. They're angry. They want to hurt you.
Impossible. Varion bretted.
He shouldn't have enhanced senses for years. The rear windshield exploded. Tessa screamed, throwing herself over Liam as glass rained down. Varion swerved hard, the SUV fishtailing wildly. In the side mirror, Tessa saw them. Motorcycles, black and sleek, riders in leather with glowing red eyes. Hunters. Varion snarled. Hold on. He slammed the accelerator. The SUV roared forward, but the motorcycles matched their speed easily. One pulled alongside, and the rider raised a crossbow loaded with something that shimmered silver. Down. Varion yanked the wheel. The bolt punched through where his head had been, embedding in the passenger seat. The SUV careened off the highway, bouncing across scrubland in a spray of dirt and rocks. They're hurting us, Varion said through gritted teeth. Trying to separate us from witnesses. Liam whimpered, and Tessa felt him trembling. No, not trembling. Vibrating. Power building under his skin like a shaken soda can. Varion, something's wrong. Liam's eyes snapped open, blazing gold. Get away from my ammo. The shockwave that exploded from Liam flipped the nearest motorcycle end over end. The others scattered, their bikes skidding out. Even the SUV rocked violently, electronics sparking and dying. Then Liam went limp, unconscious again. The SUV coasted to a stop in the dark desert, its engine dead. Behind them, the hunters were regrouping, circling like wolves. Varion turned to Tessa, blood trickling from his nose from the shockwave's impact. There's a safe house. 40 miles west. Can you run? Tessa looked at her unconscious son, at the monsters closing in, at the impossible choice she'd already made. I'm a waitress who worked 3 jobs to keep my kid fed, she said, lifting Liam into her arms. I can do anything. Varion smiled, a real smile this time, fierce and proud. Then run like the wind, Tessa Martinez. And don't look back. The safe house wasn't a house at all. It was a cave carved into red rock canyons, hidden behind a waterfall that hadn't seen water in decades. Varian pressed his palm against what looked like solid stone, and ancient symbols flared to life, revealing a doorway that definitely hadn't been their secans before. Inside. Quickly. Tessa stumbled through, her arm screaming from carrying Liam for 7 miles. The moment they crossed the threshold, cool air washed over them, and torches ignited along the walls in succession. Actual torches, with real fire that cast dancing shadows across carved pillars and faded tapestries. What is this place? Tessa laid Liam gently on a stone bench covered in moth-eaten velvet. Neutral ground. Varian traced his fingers along the wall carvings. Vampire script, elegant and terrible. Before the civil wars, before Rays, the clans would meet here to resolve disputes without bloodshed. It's been abandoned for 30 years. Is it safe? The wards are ancient but still active. Nothing can enter without invitation. He paused, his expression darkening. Nothing from the outside, anyway. Tessa didn't like the sound of that. But exhaustion was winning over fear. She collapsed beside Liam, watching his chest rise and fall. Twice in one night, he'd unleashed power that shouldn't exist, and each time it left him more drained. He needs training, Varian said, reading her thoughts. Without control, his power will consume him. Or worse, paint a target so bright every creature in both realms will see it. Both realms. Varian settled across from her, and for the first time, Tessa saw how tired he looked. Ancient. The human world and ours exist parallel, separated by the veil. Most vampires live there, in the kingdom I once ruled. The kingdom Rays has poisoned with his paranoia and hatred. Why does he hate Liam so much? He's just a child. Because Liam is proof that our kind can evolve. That we don't have to be parasites hiding in shadows. Varian's fists clenched. Rays believes in purity.
Pure vampire bloodlines, pure power.
A half-human heir threatens everything he's built his regime on.
Tessa thought about that.
About her son, caught between two worlds, belonging fully to neither. The story of her life, really, too poor for the nice neighborhoods, too proud to ask for help, always stuck in the middle. There's something you're not telling me, she met Varian's eyes. You said I wouldn't remember that night because you glamored me. But glamour doesn't last 6 years. Why couldn't I remember you? Varian looked away. Because I didn't just glamour you. I erased myself entirely. Every conversation, every touch, every moment. It was supposed to protect you. From what? From becoming collateral damage in a war you didn't choose. The words hung heavy between them. Tessa wanted to be angry. She should be furious. But exhaustion had dulled her edges. Besides, hadn't she done the same thing? Erased Liam's father from the story, told herself it didn't matter, that they were fine on their own. I need to check something. Varian stood, moving to a dusty cabinet against the far wall. He pulled out what looked like a crystal ball, except instead of glass, it seemed made of solidified smoke. This will show us if the tracking spell is still active. He placed it beside Liam, whispering words in that liquid vampire language. The sphere began to glow, and Tessa watched in horror as red threads appeared, woven through Liam's sleeping form like parasitic roots. Oh God. It's worse than I thought. Varian's voice was hollow. This isn't just a tracking spell. It's a leash. Rays has been watching him, yes, but also influencing him. Dreams. Impulses. Small nudges over years. Tessa's blood ran cold. The nightmares. Liam's had nightmares since he was 3. Always the same, a man with a crown telling him he doesn't belong. Rays. Varian looked sick. He's been poisoning Liam's mind, making him feel like an outsider in his own skin. When the awakening happened, that connection would have strengthened. Liam's eyes snapped open, but they weren't brown anymore. They glowed crimson, and when he smiled, it wasn't her son's smile. Hello, brother. The voice that came from Liam's mouth was wrong. Deeper, older, cruel. Did you really think you could hide my nephew from me? Varian moved between Tessa and Liam instantly. Get out of him, Reyes. Oh, I'm not in him. Not yet, Liam. Reyes sat up, moving with eerie grace. But I've been nurturing this connection for years. He's more mine than yours at this point. All those bedtime stories, all those whispered doubts. You're different. You're wrong. You don't belong, he believes it now. You're a monster, Tessa whispered. Those red eyes fixed on her. I'm a king protecting his throne from abomination. Your son is a mistake that never should have existed. But don't worry, I'll correct that error soon enough. The wards, Varian started. Don't apply to blood already inside, Reyes laughed through Liam's mouth. I don't need to enter, Varian. I'm already here. Have been for 6 years. And tomorrow night, at moonrise, this body becomes fully mine. Liam collapsed, the red fading from his eyes. He was unconscious again, but Tessa could see the red threads in the sphere pulsing stronger now, tightening. 24 hours. Varian turned to her, and Tessa saw something she never expected to see in a vampire king's eyes. Desperation. There's only one way to break the connection, he said quietly. We have to take him through the veil. Into the kingdom. To the blood spring where all royal vampires are born. It's the only power strong enough to sever Reyes' hold. That's suicide. You said Reyes controls the kingdom. I know, Varian's smile was bitter. But it's the only chance Liam has. We leave at dawn. Tessa looked at her son, possessed by the monster who wanted him dead, and made the only choice a mother could make. Then we'd better not waste time sleeping. Dawn broke over the desert like a wound. Tessa hadn't slept. She'd spent the night watching red threads pulse beneath Liam's skin, counting down the hours until Reyes claimed him completely. Varian had been pacing, muttering in that ancient vampire language, occasionally slamming his fist against the stone walls hard enough to crack them. The Vale crossing is 10 miles north, he said as pale sunlight filtered through the cave entrance. We need to move before. Liam screamed. Not a child's scream. Something primal and agonized that made the torches flare and the cave walls tremble. His back arched off the stone bench, veins bulging black beneath his skin. What's happening? Tessa grabbed him, but his skin was burning hot. Varian. The transition is accelerating. Varian's face went pale. Reyes is forcing it. We're out of time. Liam's eyes snapped open, brown fighting with red, his own consciousness battling for control. Mom? His voice was small, terrified, and completely her son's. I can hear him. In my head. He's trying to take over. Fight it, baby. Fight him. I can't. Tears streamed down Liam's face. He's too strong, and he's showing me things. Bad things. Things you did. Tessa's heart stopped. What things? You didn't want me, Liam's voice cracked. When you found out you were pregnant, you cried for 3 days. You almost. Stop, Tessa cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. Yes, I cried. I was 23, broke, and alone. But I never, not for 1 second, regretted keeping you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. She's lying. Reyes' voice whispered through Liam's lips. She resents you. Every shift, every unpaid bill, every sacrifice, she blames you. I blame your father, Tessa shot back, glaring at Varian. For disappearing. For erasing himself. But you, Liam? You're my whole world. Something shifted in Liam's eyes, the red retreating, brown surging forward. But the victory was short-lived. His body convulsed, and Tessa felt power building in him like a nuclear reactor about to explode. Outside, Varian grabbed them both.
Now.
They barely made it through the entrance before Liam erupted. This time, the shockwave was different. Not destructive, but transformative. The desert sand around them crystallized into glass. The dead waterfall suddenly gushed with water that glowed silver. And Liam was floating 3 feet off the ground, his eyes blazing gold and red in a swirling storm of color. 2 bloodlines, Varian breathed. both trying to manifest at once. He's tearing himself apart. Then stop it, Tessa screamed. I can't. Only he can choose which side dominates, human or vampire. And if he chooses wrong, or chooses neither, he dies, Tessa finished. She stepped forward, ignoring Varion's warning. Liam. Baby, listen to my voice. The floating figure turned toward her. When it spoke, the voice was layered, Liam, Ray's, and something older beneath them both. He doesn't want to choose. Choosing means losing half of himself. Smart kid. Tessa's heart broke. Then don't choose, baby. Take both. You're not half vampire or half human. You're whole. You're Liam. Impossible. Ray's snarled through the connection. He must be one or the other. Purity or corruption. There is no middle ground. Watch me, Liam said, his own voice stronger now. The gold and red in his eyes began to merge, swirling together into something new. Not crimson, not brown, amber. Like honey lit from within. The power radiating from him shifted, no longer chaotic but focused, and when his feet touched the ground, the desert around them had transformed into an oasis. Flowers bloomed from dead earth. The cave behind them glowed with renewed wards. And Liam looked at his hands and smiled. I feel different. Whole. But Varian wasn't celebrating. He was staring at the horizon, where dust clouds were rising. Lots of them. The power surge. It was massive, his voice was grim. Every creature within 100 miles felt it. They're coming. Who's coming? Everyone. Varian grabbed Liam's shoulder. Can you run? Really run? Liam nodded, and Tessa saw something new in her son's face. Confidence. Purpose. The uncertainty that Ray's had been feeding for years was gone, burned away by his choice to be both rather than either. Good. Because we need to reach the Veil before the first attacker landed between them and the horizon. She was beautiful and terrible, a vampire woman with silver hair and armor made of darkness. Behind her, more shapes descended from the sky. Vampires with bat-like wings, their eyes hungry and fixed on Liam. The unbound heir, the woman said, her voice like crushed velvet. Ray's offers a fortune to whoever brings him the boy, dead or alive. Naturally, we prefer alive, said another vampire, landing to her right. More fun that way. Varian moved into a fighting stance, but there were too many. 12. 24. More arriving every second, drawn by the scent of power and gold. Tessa felt panic rising. They were surrounded, outnumbered. This was how it ended.
No.
Liam stepped forward, his amber eyes blazing. You want me? Come and get me. He raised his hands, and the desert answered. The sand itself rose up, forming warriors of glass and stone that crashed into the vampire attackers. Varian grabbed Tessa's hand, pulling her toward a gap in the circle. Run. I'll hold them off. We're not leaving you. You have to. Varian shoved something into her hand, a black key that pulsed with magic. The Veil Gate. Follow the canyon north. When you see the arch of twisted trees, use this. It'll take you to the one person who can help Liam now. Who? Varian's smile was sad. My sister. Tell her I'm sorry. Then he threw himself into the battle, moving like liquid death, buying them seconds they desperately needed. Tessa grabbed Liam and ran, her son's sand warriors crumbling behind them as more vampires arrived. The last thing she heard was Varian's roar of defiance and the sick sound of battle. They ran north through the canyon, Liam's new power making him fast, too fast, and Tessa struggled to keep up. But she pushed through burning lungs and screaming muscles until she saw it. The arch of twisted trees, black and ancient, with air that shimmered between their trunks like heat waves. The Veil. Mom, what about Varian? Tessa's hand tightened on the black key. He'll find us. He has to. She didn't believe it. But she pressed the key to the veil anyway, watching it dissolve into light. The gateway opened, revealing a world of eternal twilight beyond. And Tessa dragged her son through, into a kingdom at war. The world tilted sideways. Tessa's stomach lurched as reality bent around them, colors bleeding together like wet paint. Then her feet hit solid ground, and she collapsed, gasping, pulling Liam down with her. They were on a mountainside. Not the red rock desert they'd left behind, but black volcanic stone beneath a sky caught in permanent dusk. 2 moons hung overhead, one silver, one blood red, casting everything in shades of purple and shadow. Below them, sprawling across the valley, was a city that looked like it had been carved from obsidian and regret. "Welcome to Ashenfell," a voice said. "The capital of everything my brother destroyed."
Tesaspun.
A woman stood behind them, tall and regal in armor that seemed woven from moonlight itself. She had Varion's sharp features, his silver eyes, but where his gaze held centuries of burden, hers burned with barely contained rage. "You're his sister, Seraphine." The woman's eyes fixed on Liam with an intensity that made Tessa's protective instincts flare. "And you're the heir who just announced himself to the entire realm with that spectacular display of power. Every noble, every assassin, every opportunist now knows exactly where you are. Varion gave us the key." "Varion is an idiot," but Seraphine's voice cracked slightly. "Is he alive?" "He was fighting. Buying us time." Seraphine closed her eyes briefly, then gestured sharply.
Come.
Standing exposed on a mountainside is suicide. She led them down a hidden path, through crevices in the rock that seemed too narrow until you stepped through them. Within minutes, they emerged into a fortress carved inside the mountain itself, all sharp angles and defensive positions, with vampires in mismatched armor watching them with suspicious, hungry eyes. "This is what remains of the Loyalist faction," Seraphine explained, her voice bitter. 53 warriors, 12 nobles, 6 children born since the exile. We held the capital for 2 years after Varion disappeared, but raised forces. He doesn't just kill rebels. He makes examples. Eventually, we retreated here." Tessa counted the faces staring at them. Warriors with scars and exhaustion etched deep. Nobles in tarnished finery clutching what remained of their pride. And the children, pale, thin, watching Liam with a mixture of hope and fear. "Is it true?" A small vampire girl, maybe 8, approached cautiously. "Are you really the heir? The one who can take back the throne?" Liam looked at Tessa, uncertain. She squeezed his hand. "I don't know anything about thrones," Liam said quietly. "I'm just trying to stay alive. Honest." At least, Seraphine led them deeper into the fortress, to a chamber lined with maps and battle plans. "But honesty won't help you here. Reyes controls the capital, the army, and the council. He's convinced half the realm that Varion abandoned them, and the other half that you're an abomination who'll destroy everything." "Then why are we here?" Tessa demanded. "If it's suicide, why bring us to the one place Reyes will definitely look?" Because of that, Seraphine pointed to a map, to a spot marked in red ink at the heart of the capital. The Blood Spring, the source of all vampire power, where every royal is presented at birth. It's the only thing that can completely sever Reyes' connection to Liam and legitimize his claim to the throne. "How do we get to it?" "We don't," a new voice spoke, a vampire noble with gray in his hair and cruelty in his smile. "Lord Corvus, according to the nameplate on his armor. The boy isn't proven. Half human. For all we know, he's a spy sent by Reyes to infiltrate our numbers." "Don't be absurd, Corvus." "Am I?" Corvus stepped forward, and other nobles flanked him. 5 of them, watching Liam like a problem to solve. "The timing is convenient. Varion appears after 6 years with a supposed heir right when our forces are weakest. And this heir leads an army of hunters straight to our last stronghold. We were followed." Seraphine's hand went to her sword. 20 minutes behind you. Reyes' elite guard, approaching from the North Pass. Chaos erupted. Warriors scrambled for weapons. The children were herded into deeper chambers. And Corvus kept his cold eyes on Liam. There's a simple solution, he said. We hand over the boy. Tell Reyes we never supported this farce. Perhaps he'll show mercy. You coward, Seraphine snarled. He's a child. He's a liability. Corvus grabbed Liam's arm, and Tessa moved instantly. Her waitress instincts turned to mother-wolf fury. She had a fork, stolen from the diner, somehow still in her apron pocket, pressed to Corvus's throat before he could blink. Touch my son again, and I'll show you what human desperation looks like. Corvus laughed, but released Liam. A human, threatening a vampire lord. How deliciously suicidal. Tell me, woman, can you protect him from all of us? The other nobles moved closer, surrounding them. Tessa realized with sinking dread that they were outnumbered. These were allies, supposedly, but desperation made people into monsters. Stop. Liam's voice wasn't loud, but power thrummed beneath it. The amber in his eyes brightened, and suddenly every vampire in the room froze, their expressions shifting from aggression to awe. You can feel it, can't you? Liam looked at Corvus. My blood. It's singing to yours. Royal blood calling to royal oaths.
Impossible, corvu breted.
The blood song only manifests in pure-blooded heirs after their 100th year. I'm not pure-blooded, Liam's voice was steady, older than his 6 years. I'm something new, and whether you like it or not, I'm what you've got. So you can hand me over to Reyes and die in this mountain waiting for a salvation that'll never come, or you can help me reach the blood spring and maybe, we all survive this. Silence. Then one of the vampire children stepped forward. I'll follow him, she said, the same girl who'd asked if he was the heir. Anyone who can face Lord Corvus without crying is brave enough to lead us. Another child joined her. Then another. The warriors exchanged glances, then slowly, grudgingly, knelt. Corvus stared at the scene, his face twisted with emotions Tessa couldn't read. Finally, he too knelt, his voice dripping with resentment. Long live the heir. Save it, Liam said. How long until Reyes' forces arrive? 10 minutes, Seraphine said, pride and worry warring in her expression. Maybe less. Then we have 10 minutes to come up with a plan that doesn't end with everyone dead. Liam looked at his mother, and Tessa saw the weight settling on his small shoulders, the weight of a crown he'd never asked for, commanding people he'd just met, fighting a war that started before he was born. But he didn't flinch. Outside, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed like thunder. Reyes' elite guard, coming to collect what they believed was already theirs. Tessa pulled Liam close, and together they faced the map of an impossible kingdom, looking for a miracle in the time they had left. The plan was desperate and stupid, which meant, according to Seraphine, it might actually work. The elite guard expects resistance at the main entrance, she explained, marking the map with quick, precise movements. So we give them resistance, a loud, dramatic defense that holds their attention while a small team escapes through the mining tunnels beneath the fortress. They lead to the old merchant quarter in Ashenfell, 2 blocks from the blood spring. And the team? Tessa asked, though she already knew the answer. You, Liam, and me. Maybe one guard. Seraphine's eyes flicked to Corvus. Someone trustworthy. I'll go, Corvus said immediately. 2 immediately. Tessa's instincts screamed warning, but Seraphine nodded.
Good.
We leave in 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes felt like 5 seconds. Tessa barely had time to grab supplies, a cloak, a knife, a canteen of water that tasted like metal and moonlight, before they were descending into tunnels that smelled of ancient darkness and forgotten things. The sounds of battle erupted above them. Screams. The clash of steel. Magic crackling like lightning. Seraphine moved fast, navigating the labyrinth of passages with practiced ease, and Tessa struggled to keep up while keeping Liam close. How did Reyes find us so quickly? Liam asked, his voice echoing off stone walls. The Veil Gate, Corvus spoke from behind them, his tone casual. It leaves a signature. Anyone watching the crossings would have seen you arrive. Then why use it at all? Tessa challenged. Because, Seraphine said grimly, Every other entrance to the realm is controlled by rays. The mountain gate was our only option, even knowing it would compromise our location. They emerged into what looked like an abandoned subway station, if subways were carved from black crystal and lit by phosphorescent moss. Seraphine consulted a faded map, then pointed down a tunnel branching left. This leads to the merchant quarter. Stay quiet. Stay close. If we're lucky. Luck ran out hours ago, Corvus said softly. Then he drove his sword through Seraphine's back. Time fractured. Tessa saw Seraphine's eyes widen in shock and betrayal. Saw Liam scream, amber eyes blazing. Saw Corvus twist the blade with casual cruelty before yanking it free. Seraphine collapsed, blood pooling black in the dim light. I'm sorry, Corvus said, and he almost sounded sincere. But Reyes promised me the eastern provinces. My family's ancestral lands, returned in exchange for one simple delivery. You bastard. Tessa lunged at him, but Corvus moved with vampire speed, catching her wrist and twisting until she heard something crack. Pain exploded up her arm. Mom. Liam's power surged, the tunnel walls cracking, but Corvus was ready. He pulled out a collar, black metal inscribed with red runes, and snapped it around Liam's neck before the boy could react. Liam's eyes went wide. The amber light died. He collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Suppression collar, Corvus explained, dragging Liam's limp form over his shoulder. Nullifies all magical ability. Can't have the merchandise damaged during transport. He's a child. Tessa cradled her broken wrist, tears of rage streaming down her face. You're selling a child. I'm saving my people. Corvus's expression hardened. 53 warriors can't win against Reyes' army. But perhaps, with my family's lands restored, I can negotiate peace. Rebuild. Sometimes sacrifices are necessary. History will remember you as a traitor. History is written by survivors. Corvus turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you find a way out of these tunnels. You seem like a decent mother. Better than most humans. Then he was gone, moving with inhuman speed, taking Tessa's son into the darkness. Tessa crawled to Seraphine. The vampire woman was still breathing, barely, blood bubbling at her lips. Stupid. Should have seen. Seraphine coughed. Corvus always was. Ambitious. Save your strength. I'll find help. No time. Seraphine grabbed Tessa's good hand with surprising strength. Listen. Reyes will parade Liam through the capital. Public execution at moonrise. Proves his power. Terrifies dissidents. How do I stop it? You can't. Seraphine's laugh was wet and bitter. You're human.
Weak.
Breakable. You'll die in minutes in Ashenfell. Then I'll die fighting. Tessa met those silver eyes. Tell me how to reach the blood spring. Something shifted in Seraphine's expression. Respect, maybe. Or pity. The merchant quarter. Tunnels emerge behind. The Crimson Bazaar. Blood spring is. In the palace center. But it's suicide. Reyes has. The entire elite guard. Plus the Bone Cathedral Knights. You'll never. I don't need to win. Tessa's voice was steel. I just need to reach my son. Now tell me what I need to know. Seraphine spoke for 3 minutes, her voice weakening with each word. She described the layout of the capital, the blind spots in Reyes' defenses, the one secret passage that led from the palace dungeons to the blood spring chamber. Knowledge bought with decades of resistance and sacrifice. Then her hand went slack. Thank you, Tessa whispered, closing those silver eyes. She stood, cradling her broken wrist, and faced the tunnel ahead. Somewhere in the capital, Reyes was preparing to execute her son. To murder a 6-year-old boy in front of thousands to prove a political point. Tessa thought about the diner, about double shifts and unpaid bills, and every impossible thing she'd overcome to keep Liam fed, clothed, alive. About the strength it took to be a single mother in a world designed to break you. Corvus was wrong. Human weakness wasn't fragility. It was steel forged in everyday survival. It was loving someone more than your own life and refusing to let anything, vampires, magic, or fate itself, take them away. Tessa picked up Corvus's dropped torch and walked into the darkness, every step a declaration of war. She was done running. It was time to be the monster they should have feared from the beginning. A mother with nothing left to lose. The Crimson Bazaar was a nightmare painted in neon and blood. Tessa emerged from the tunnels into a marketplace that defied reality, stalls selling memories in glass bottles, weapons that whispered promises of murder, contracts written on human skin. Vampires moved through the crowd in elegant procession, none of them noticing the dirty human woman with a broken wrist clutching a stolen cloak. Until the announcement echoed across the realm. Citizens of Ashenfell. Ray's voice boomed from crystals embedded in the air itself, carrying throughout the capital. Tonight, you witness justice. The abomination claiming to be heir, the half-breed corruption, will face execution at moonrise in the palace square. All are commanded to attend. The crowd erupted in bloodthirsty cheers. Tessa's stomach turned, but she pushed forward, following Seraphine's directions toward the palace that loomed like a black crown against the twilight sky. Getting inside was easier than expected. Everyone was moving toward the square, toward the spectacle. Tessa simply joined the flow, keeping her head down, her broken wrist hidden. Guards checked faces, not hands. They were looking for vampire rebels, not desperate human mothers. The secret passage Seraphine described was behind a statue in the lower dungeons, a weeping angel whose tears were carved rubies. Tessa found it, pressed the third tier from the left, and watched stone grind aside to reveal stairs descending into deeper darkness. She ran. The passage led through the palace's foundation, past cells holding skeletal prisoners who reached through bars with pleading hands. Tessa wanted to free them, but Liam came first. Always first. Finally, she reached a door carved with the same crest that had exploded from Varion's phone, crossed swords behind a bleeding crown. Beyond it she heard voices. "Kneel," Ray's commanded. Tessa peered through a crack. The blood spring chamber was magnificent and terrible, a cathedral of obsidian surrounding a pool of liquid that glowed like molten rubies. Ray stood beside it, wearing a crown of black thorns, while Liam knelt before him, still collared, his small face defiant despite obvious terror. "Any last words, nephew?" "Yeah," Liam's voice didn't shake. "My mom's going to kill you." Ray's laughed. "Your mother is human. Fragile. By now, she's likely dead in the tunnels, or smart enough to have fled." Tessa kicked the door open. Guess again.
She had no plan.
No weapons except the knife she'd taken from the fortress. But she had rage and love and 6 years of fighting impossible odds, and she threw all of it at the Vampire King. Ray's moved to intercept her, fast as lightning, but Tessa had been counting on that. She wasn't aiming for him. She was aiming for the collar's chain, anchored to the floor, and when her knife struck the lock, it shattered. The suppression collar sparked but held. Not enough. Ray's hand closed around Tessa's throat, lifting her off the ground.
Brave.
Stupid, but brave. "Mom." Liam struggled against his chains, power trying to surge, but strangled by the collar. "I'm impressed you made it this far," Ray's continued, squeezing slowly. "But this is where your story ends. You'll watch your son die, then join him." Tessa couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in her vision. But she managed 3 words, gurgled past Ray's grip.
Varion. Still lives.
Ray's eyes widened.
Impossible.
"I felt him fall." "You felt what he wanted you to feel." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Then Varion crashed through the stained glass ceiling in an explosion of colored shards and fury. He looked terrible, covered in blood, one arm hanging limp, but alive. So impossibly, wonderfully alive. He hit Ray's like a meteor. The impact threw Tessa free. She rolled, gasping, crawling toward Liam while the brothers collided in a storm of supernatural violence. They moved too fast to follow, Two blurs of motion and murder, their power cracking the obsidian floor. The collar, Liam gasped. I can't help. Tessa's fingers found the clasp, slick with her own blood from Ray's script. The mechanism was complex, magical, but she'd spent 6 years opening child-proof medicine bottles and impossible toy packaging. She'd figure this out or die trying. Behind her, Varian screamed. Tessa looked back to see Ray's holding his brother by the throat, just as he'd held her, triumph gleaming in his red eyes. Still weak, Ray's hissed. Still clinging to human sentimentality. That's why you were never fit to rule. The collar clicked open. Power exploded from Liam like a supernova. But this time it was different. Controlled. The amber light didn't destroy, it transformed. It wrapped around Varian, healing his wounds, amplifying his strength. It swept across the chamber, and where it touched, Tessa felt warmth. Safety.
Hope.
Varian broke free from Ray's grip, his eyes blazing silver gold. His own power merged with his son's. You're right, brother. I was weak. I tried to rule alone. But that's not how kingdoms survive. They survive through strength. Ray summoned his own power, pure crimson, violent and ancient. Through purity. Through unity, Liam said, standing now, his small hand finding his mother's. Through being more than one thing. The amber light pulsed, reaching toward Ray's, offering. Not violence. Connection. Ray's stared at it. For one moment, Tessa saw something crack in his expression. Loneliness, maybe, or regret. The chance to be part of something instead of above it. Then his face hardened. Never. He lunged at Liam, blade extended, choosing death over compromise. Varian intercepted him. They collided over the blood spring, and when they hit the glowing pool, the liquid reacted. It surged upward, wrapping around them both, pulling them down into depths that shouldn't exist in a pool barely 6 feet wide.
Dad.
Liam tried to run forward, but Tessa held him back. The blood spring glowed brighter, brighter, then exploded upward in a geyser of light. When it settled, only one figure stood in the pool. Varian, crown in hand, Ray's body dissolving into crimson mist behind him. It's over, he said quietly. But his eyes were hollow. Tessa understood. He'd killed his own brother. Saved his kingdom. Lost his family. Won and lost simultaneously. Liam understood too. He walked to the pool's edge, reached out his hand. You're not alone, he said simply. You have us. Varian stared at that small hand, human and vampire, breakable and powerful, offering forgiveness he didn't deserve. He took it. And the blood spring sang in recognition, its light embracing all three of them. King, heir, and the human woman who'd fought her way through hell for love. Outside, the twin moons aligned, and throughout the capital, vampires felt the shift. A new era beginning. Whether they were ready or not. The coronation happened at dawn. Not the false twilight that hung perpetually over the vampire realm, but actual dawn, the first in 30 years. Varian had ordered the veil thinned at the palace, letting real sunlight filter through in soft, golden streams that didn't burn but baptized. Tessa stood in the crowd, her wrist bandaged and healing faster than any human injury should, a side effect of touching the blood spring, Varian had explained. Around her, thousands of vampires gathered in the palace square, the same place where Liam was supposed to have died. Now, they watched him live. Do you, Liam Varian Martinez, accept the burden of the crown? The high priestess was ancient, her voice like wind through graves. Do you swear to rule with wisdom, to protect both human and vampire, to bridge the divide that has fractured our realm? Liam stood on the dais in robes that were too big for him, a crown sized for a child resting on his dark hair. He looked terrified. He looked 6 years old. He looked at his mother. Tessa smiled, nodding. You've got this, baby. I do, Liam said, his voice steady. But I can't do it alone. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't part of the ceremony. "I'm 6, Liam continued, amber eyes bright. "I still can't tie my shoes right. I cry when I have nightmares. I don't know anything about ruling kingdoms or vampire politics or any of this." He gestured at the vast palace, the waiting nobles, the weight of expectation. "But I know what it feels like to be different, to not fit anywhere. And I think maybe that's exactly what this kingdom needs." He turned to Varian, who stood beside the throne in formal armor, looking every inch the warrior king he'd once been. "My father will rule with me. As regent, as advisor, as dad. We'll figure it out together." Varian's expression cracked, just slightly. He knelt, not in ceremony, but in genuine emotion. "I would be honored, my son. And my mom?" Liam looked at Tessa, and she shook her head frantically.
No, don't pull me into this.
But Liam smiled that stubborn smile she knew so well. "My mom stays with me. Not as a queen. Just as my mom. Because I'm still going to need help with homework and bedtime stories and someone to tell me when I'm being stupid." The crowd laughed, actually laughed. The sound was strange in the solemn square, but it spread like wildfire. Human laughter from a half-human prince, breaking centuries of rigid tradition. The high priestess looked flustered. "This is highly irregular."
"Good," Liam said.
Regular wasn't working. She stared at him for a long moment, then smiled. The first genuine expression Tessa had seen from her. "Very well. I pronounce you Prince Liam, first of his name, bridge between worlds, hope of the unified realm." The crowd erupted. Not the bloodthirsty cheers from yesterday, but something warmer. Hopeful. Tessa felt tears streaming down her face as nobles and commoners alike knelt, accepting this impossible child as their future. Later, after the ceremonies and feasts and political meetings that made Tessa's head spin, she found herself alone with Varian on a balcony overlooking the city. Ashenfell looked different in the thinned veil, less oppressive, more alive. "You could have it, you know," Varian said quietly. "Immortality.
Power.
I could turn you, make you truly part of this world." Tessa had known this was coming. She'd felt it in the way he looked at her, the weight of unspoken offers. "I know," she said. "And maybe in another life, I'd say yes. But Liam needs someone who remembers what it's like to be human, to struggle.
To be ordinary," she smiled sadly.
He needs someone who'll make him eat his vegetables and do his chores and remember that being powerful doesn't mean being happy. You're choosing mortality, watching him grow while you age, leaving him eventually. I'm choosing to be his mother, not his subject." Tessa met Varian's silver eyes. He'll have centuries of advisors and nobles and people telling him what a prince should be. But he gets one childhood. And I'm going to make sure it's as normal as possible, even in a vampire palace. Varian was quiet for a long moment. Then, "He's lucky to have you. He's lucky to have us both." Tessa touched his hand briefly. "We're not a family in any traditional sense. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we're exactly what we need to be." Inside, they could hear Liam laughing, playing with the vampire children who'd knelt before him earlier, just kids being kids. The sound was pure and bright, and it carried through the palace like a promise. Varian smiled, real and unguarded for maybe the first time since she'd met him. "I thought I'd lost everything when I was exiled. My throne, my kingdom, my purpose." He looked at Tessa. "I didn't realize I'd found something better. A scary 6-year-old with magical powers?
Asson.
A family. A reason to build something worth protecting." Tessa leaned against the railing, watching the twin moons rise over a kingdom being reborn. In the square below, vampires and the few brave humans who'd crossed the veil mingled freely for the first time in generations. It wouldn't be easy. Centuries of division didn't heal overnight. But they were trying. And sometimes trying was enough.
"Mom. Dad."
Liam burst onto the balcony, still in his 2 big robes, his crown askew. The cook made something called blood pudding, and I'm not sure if it's vampire food or human food, but it's really good. Come try it. He grabbed both their hands, pulling them back inside with 6-year-old enthusiasm that had nothing to do with being a prince and everything to do with being a kid who'd found something exciting. Tessa caught Varion's eye over Liam's head, and they shared a smile. Two people from impossible worlds, united by an impossible child, building an impossible future. One day at a time. One meal at a time. One bedtime story at a time. And in the morning, when Liam woke from a nightmare about the battle, Tessa was there to hold him. When he struggled with vampire tutors who spoke only in ancient languages, Varian was there to translate. When he asked the impossible questions, why do people hate what's different? Will I ever fit in? Am I enough? They answered together. You're more than enough, Tessa whispered, tucking him in one night months later. You're everything this kingdom needed and didn't know to ask for. Even though I'm different. Because you're different, she kissed his forehead. Different isn't wrong, baby. Different is how the world changes. Liam smiled, his amber eyes already closing.
Mom.
Yeah. I'm glad you smashed that phone. Tessa laughed, the sound bright in the darkened room. Me too, baby. Me too. Outside, the twin moons shone over a kingdom healing. Inside, a single mother from a highway diner tucked in the boy who would one day unite two worlds. And in that moment, crown or no crown, throne or no throne, they were simply home. The end.